Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellas, welcome back to the channel. And if you're watching on the YouTube version, the first thing you're going to notice is that there's a different background and there's no green screen for me. I'm currently traveling, tried a bunch of different setups with the green screen, did not have enough lighting. I have some lighting with me, some artificial lighting, if you will, and it's just not lighting it up good enough. So this is going to be a little bit of a quicker video today, just going over really some of the main things. Obviously, the early interest, we're going to go over everything we usually do. I'm just going to compress it a little bit time-wise, just so it's easier on me to get it up because there's only a 1 p.m. start. Yesterday, we at least had a couple of hour and a half extra. I was able to get that video up a day before. Today, if it's only gonna have like a 4-hour shelf life, it's going to be difficult to want to put these videos out for today and tomorrow. So be sure if you're watching this to hit the like button and big old subscribe button that pops up because it allows it to reach more people. Because right now, we're working on like a 4-hour shelf life, and that's a terrible thing to be making content for. I would just live stream it, but again, I'm on a traveling spot right now, and I don't really have the best situation for just setting up and live streaming randomly. I don't even know if the Wi-Fi is stable for that. So I figured instead of putting no videos out this weekend, I would try today and see how this format goes, and if it goes well, then it's better than nothing, and I think it's going to be fine. It's just a matter of the actual, if you care if there's a green screen or proper lighting on me or not. If you're listening on the podcast, you're probably like, what is this guy even talking about? It doesn't matter. But with that being said, I'm just going to go through the injuries, I'm going to go through the target offense sheet, and then we'll get to some of the early interest. So, sponsor of today's video, and there was another baker's dozen or so of you that signed up yesterday, is Superdraft, and you should be signing up. Yesterday, I did not play Superdraft. I will be transparent with you because I was traveling. I was on 2 different planes, connecting, all those types of things, and then I got to my family and my parents, and I just hung out, right? I don't want to be sweating DFS. Today, I will be. There's going to be different start times, whether it's NBA. I'm going to be giving away Superdraft tickets, probably a couple of them, right? So if you want to get in a raffle for that, head over to my Twitter. I'm going to put up a pinned tweet, and you'll have a chance to win just some free entries into some of the Superdraft contests. You can test it out that way. And if you want to just play over on Superdraft, promo code SAL, S-A-L, is going to get you $10 free. I believe it is the best spot right now to profit because if you haven't watched my previous videos, you're going to be getting in contests that are only filling 60 to 70%. So that extra 30% of the prize pool is just up for grabs. It's less competition, but the same amount of money. You have an easier chance to win where you're going to be getting maybe 1% rake, 2% overlay, and most of the DraftKings and FanDuel's contents, if you're lucky, or just 1 or 2% not filling, you're going to have way, way better odds in the Superdraft lobbies. And you have a variety of games to choose from, so be sure to check that out. Appreciate you all being here. You can check out Patreon. The NBA projections will be up for this slate. They will be updated for this slate, and then also throughout the entire weekend. Golf stuff will be out as we start up on Monday. So with that being said, now we move into the injury and status dashboard, where you're going to be starting with a lot of Denver Nuggets today. Gary Harris, Will Barton already out. Harris with a hip injury, Will Barton with a knee, and Jamal Murray is now questionable as well with a hamstring. So with those guys being out and potentially Jamal Murray being out, it's going to open up a lot of minutes. Monty Morris is the one who should see one of the biggest bumps right off the bat if they want to play more PJ Dozier, especially if Jamal Murray misses. Those are 2 of the point guards that will see more run. I imagine now that Torrey Craig's going to get some run. Michael Porter Jr., MPG, is also going to get a big tick up basically because there's no Will Barton. So they can go a lot of ways with this. But I think right now Monty Morris stands to benefit, especially if Jamal Murray's out. There's fair price points on these players. And then probably Michael Porter Jr. after that. And then you're going to just have to start throwing bodies up to clog up some of the minutes. And I think PJ Dozier will be somebody who benefits from that. And probably some Torrey Craig as well. Moving over to Indiana today. And Indiana is also going to be in the same situation. It's crazy how many injuries or just players not being with the team. Jeremy Lamb, I mean, we expected him not to be with the team. He's already out. He's going to remain out. Victor Oladipo is highly questionable with a knee injury today, so keep an eye on that. Domantas Sabonis, they haven't put an official tag on him, but he left the dome in the bubble really like 8 days ago, and I think you have to quarantine for 10 days, so I put doubtful. I think he's out. He has plantar fasciitis. He left for a foot specialist on the 24th, so I don't know how he would be back in time since it's a minimum 10 days of quarantine. I'm just going to assume that he is out, but I just put doubtful, so we don't have to have the official tag yet. Malcolm Brogdon is questionable with the neck, and Goga Bedances is questionable with the knee injury. The main reason I put Goga on here is because there's so many other injuries, mainly Sabonis to the bigs, that if he's actually going to be playing, it's going to be impactful. Now, normally, even if Goga's out, it's going to be a couple minutes spread around, whether it's 6, whether it's 8, whether it's 4 for that game. But with no Sabonis, who's playing about 35, 36 minutes a game before the break, a lot of those are probably going to go in a decent amount of them onto Goga. So if he's out, you start looking at some other guys picking up minutes. Doug McDermott would start picking up a lot more minutes. TJ Warren would probably even maybe touch the 40-minute mark where he's usually playing bigger minutes. So this is just if like Sabonis and Goga, or really Sabonis was to be out. If now you're starting to miss Sabonis, Goga, Sampson has to play big minutes. McDermott has to play big minutes. Warren has to play big minutes. And then you start tapping into what happens if Brogdon and Oladipo are out. Well, then it's just a free-for-all with all the guards, and it seems like the endless guards and wings that Indiana has. That's when you really start to tap into the Holiday brothers. That's when you start to tap into TJ McConnell for big minutes, and all these guys are fair price points. Edmund Sumner is going to be back there. They have some other guard and wing depth as well. So keep a close eye on this. These 2 teams, teams already have a ton of injury news between Denver and Indiana alone, but Indiana especially because their depth is already compromised, having no Jeremy Lamb coming in and more than likely not having Sabonis today. So keep an eye on Brogdon, keep an eye on Oladipo. If there is no Oladipo, but Brogdon goes out there and plays with this neck injury, Brogdon, first of all, only $5,800 for somebody who's probably going to play 32 to 33 minutes. Now with all these injuries, if he's forced to play 35, if he is indeed healthy enough to do that, Brogdon's usage rate, his assist percentage are going to go through the roof. It's going to be Brogdon and Miles Turner that are the standard guys that you're used to being out there for this team. TJ Warren as well. You're going to just want to own all of Indiana at that point. It's going to be hard to ignore them. The Clippers are still without Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. They're still quarantining from leaving the bubble for different reasons. Zion Williams is still going to be on a minutes limit for New Orleans today against the Clippers. On the opposite side of that, he only played 15 minutes in Thursday's game and lost to the Utah Jazz by 2 points. And for Philly coming out today, Joel Embiid is good to go, but Glenn Robinson III is going to be doubtful with a hip injury. For Toronto, Patrick McCaw is doubtful with a knee injury, and then Chris Paul is just not with the team. Some of the impacts that you're going to see from Glenn Robinson III being out is going to be just more solidified minutes for Josh Richardson, which we're already expecting there. Probably some more Alec Burke minutes going around in Philly. Remember, these are the players that came over in the trade that ended up happening before the break. Getting those players in Glenn Robinson III and Alec Burks from Golden State. Some other guys benefiting for the Sixers will probably be Korkmaz and Thibault to an extent. Patrick McCaw being out, I mean, he was seeing a decent amount of minutes depending on who was injured. So him being out, though, he's more of a depth piece behind players. Norman Powell solidifies more minutes. This team is going to be healthy, though, so I don't really expect it when guys like Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry at the guard and wing positions are going to be going out there. OG Anunoby, these guys are going to be going out there and playing close to 40 minutes a night. Yeah, Patrick McCaw, I wasn't expecting to play big minutes, but if he was going to play 12 or 14, you can look for those minutes to kind of be distributed amongst a lot of guys. They have a ton of guys they can give like 2 or 4 or 6 minutes to if they really wanted to play an 11-man rotation, whether it be a guy like Matt Thomas, giving more minutes to RHJ, giving more minutes to guys like Norman Powell or OG Anunoby. So that's where Toronto's going to go. Denver is the big piece of news. Again, mainly Jamal Murray, and then pretty much half of Indy's team today you're going to have to keep an eye out for. Guys like TJ Warren will become like all-star plays if all these guys in Oladipo, Brogdon, Sabonis were to miss. And obviously Miles Turner is too cheap, in my opinion. We're going to get to his price point on the early interest, but Miles Turner, if there is indeed no Sabonis, which it looks like, that's going to be the case. As we head into the target offense sheet, again, I do apologize for not having the green screen if you're watching on the YouTube channel, just having the normal setup that I normally have on this one. Again, I am traveling, so this is making the best of it, and I think it's going to be fine. I don't think many people will care too much, but if you are brand new to the channel, normally I have a little green screen. It's just me, the floating body here, well lit, all that. I'm not in my studio. I have a studio at home, a home studio, so appreciate y'all being here. If you could hit the like button for this video to reach more people, and the big old subscribe button, it really helps. Check out SuperDraft. $10 free play on SuperDraft. It is linked down below on how you can do that just using the promo code SAL. That is SAL. I'm going to be playing on SuperDraft today for MLB. I'm probably going to be playing on SuperDraft today for NBA. Maybe I'll even go into the NBA MMA contest today. So yeah, SuperDraft is a ton of fun. I'm going to be talking with them hopefully a little bit more in depth about how we can increase our partnership, because this is a unique product in terms of how it is built. It is the first of its kind, at least that I know of, the multiplier format. And then whenever there's innovative people in a space who are willing and really have that risk aversion and willing to bet on themselves, I want to align myself with them people when I see that it's a successful project, because you know that there's good efforts and good intentions. And really, it's also a relatable standpoint for me from somebody being a creator. But anyways, let's get into the target offense sheet. I'll blow it up a little bit right now. So the target offense sheet, just going to hit on a couple of main things to point out here, whether it be through the pace, whether it be through the totals. The highest total on the slate is going to be the Clippers in New Orleans. Shouldn't really shock anybody when New Orleans is usually going to come in as the highest paced team on the slate. Pace of that game is going to be coming in at 108.1, by far the highest on the slate. So the pace is just how many possessions per team per game. So you're going to want to be looking at that. Now, normally it will be factored into the team totals and the overall game totals, but it's also something that's nice to at least look at. So New Orleans, it's going to be a pace up game. This is the fastest game by far. It is the 2 fastest paced teams on the slate facing each other. That's why you have a 227.5 overall game total. That is 11 points higher than any other game on the slate. So yes, if you're targeting games to stack, or you just want to be targeting games on a smaller slate, or the 5-game slate, which is already kind of a smaller slate for the NBA, you go out there and you get yourself a lot of pieces of this game. The Clippers are going to be the 5-point favorites with a 116.25 team implied total. The next highest, this exact team in this exact game on the opposite side, New Orleans Pelicans, a 111.25 team implied total. So the 2 highest team totals on the slate for the highest total, a 108.1 pace rating here. You get the 2 fastest paced teams playing each other. 6 p.m. start. I do like it. And also, it's just a fantastic matchup for all the Clippers. Not only are they going to see a significant pace spike of about 4 possessions per team here, based on my metrics, they're also going to see just fantastic matchups across the board. This New Orleans young team is not the greatest team at defense. Now, their backcourt might be a little bit good at defense, whether it's Drew Holiday as a 2-way guard, Lonzo at times if he's trying, JJ Redick off the bench if he's trying. And they should be trying now that they're trying to make the playoffs in this bubble after losing their first game. It's going to be even more difficult, or at least more pressure on them, but all the Clippers are going to have great matchups here. I think it's going to be a very strong spot to be targeting. Clippers, but also on the other side with the Pelicans. Some tough matchups for the Pelicans as well, but if you're going to be getting right price points on guys, it's a spot to look at. The two other teams with a team total above 110 is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, 5.5 point favorites, a 110.25 team implied total. This is going to be a really slow paced game between the 76ers and the Indiana Pacers, two of the slower teams on the slate. It's going to be below a 100 pace rating, but you still get the 76ers right now tied for the third highest team total on the slate. There's going to be spots on the 76ers to target. We'll get into them. Some guys who are just going to be mainly value plays, but I think that you could also target the top end. And then the Lakers, a 110.25 team implied total, tied with the 76ers. They're 4-point favorites. Again, a 216 game total. They face Toronto today. More of a difficult matchup there. Now you're still going to be able to look at AD and LeBron up top. Is there anybody that we want on the cheaper end and anybody that we want outside of those two guys up top? Because that's where the real question lies with the Lakers, is what value pieces, because there's normally not really any mid-range options on this Lakers team. So with that said, let's get into the early interest now. So the early interest, again, what these are is just kind of my early thoughts, and I put these together last night heading into this morning. Obviously, there's going to be other players that I'm going to be playing. If I have a list here of about 20 players, I'm going to be playing more than that if I'm playing 150 or even 20 max or just across a bunch of different lineups, right? These are just guys that I think I want to start at least discussing. And really what I want to do is help people who are building like 1 to 10 lineups get an idea for it. But of course, these are going to be my early interest, and I'm going to make my projections right after this video, and then those projections are really going to drive my final interest, if you will. So you can get the projections down below on Patreon if you're indeed interested. But you can notice I actively didn't go to a LeBron. I actively didn't go to an AD. Nothing against them. You can still go to them if you want. More of a difficult matchup and more of how this slate plays out. I like what I'm seeing in the 8K range. I'm really like what I'm seeing in the 6K and 7K range. So building a balanced approach today, I think, might be the way to go about it. And if I'm going to be playing in high stakes single entry and 3 max lineups, that's probably how I'm going to approach that. Nikola Jokic is the cheapest I've seen Nikola Jokic in far some time. Unless you see some sort of minutes limit on Nikola Jokic today where he sees 28 minutes and he's not going for his normal 32 to 34 minutes, Jokic is going to be fine. A 28% usage rate, that's likely only to go up if all of these players are already out. And really, if Jamal Murray is out, Will Barton will be taking a decent amount of usage with him. But Jamal Murray being more of a facilitator, that's when you see Jokic's assist percentage go up. That's when you see his overall usage probably going to go up. They already play through him a lot. They're going to have to play through him even more if Jamal Murray was to miss. Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to be targeting. I mean, you'll see Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on here as two of the next 3 names if you're watching on YouTube. I'm just going to be targeting this game. It's as simple as these are the 2 best players, and for some reason, they're not expensive. Kawhi in the 8K range, Paul George still in the 7K range. I'm going to be expecting 30 plus minutes out of these guys. It's not like they're 10-point favorites. They're 5-point favorites against a hungry team in New Orleans who has to give their best effort each time out if they want to remain in the bubble with the ability to potentially get into the playoffs. So it's more so just a thing on matchup. It's what we talked about with the pace, with the totals, and also you're getting just a fair price point. Now, Paul George is a 1.35x multiplier in Superdraft. Yes, that looks very good. Sandwich in between those two guys is Kawhi's former teammate when he was in Toronto for 1 year, winning a championship. Total beast. And Kyle Lowry, $8,000 for Kyle Lowry. Look, Lowry's a guy who's going to go out there, and if as long as he's healthy and this game stays close, and it should against the Lakers where they're underdogs, you might see 40 minutes out of Kyle Lowry. They have been pushing Kyle Lowry from Rev this entire season for minimum of 36 minutes out there for guys who over fantasy point per minute producers. For Kyle Lowry, he's about a 24% usage guy. Now, with Fred VanVleet healthy and out there, it's going to knock Kyle Lowry's assist percentage, sure. But if you told me I got 36 to 40, and let's just call it 38 minutes out of Kyle Lowry tonight at around a fantasy point per minute in a tough matchup against the Lakers, but you're only $8,000 flat, I do like that. And I think he might get lost a little bit in ownership potentially because of, one, the matchup against the Lakers, but also just a situation where he's right priced there with Paul George, a little bit more expensive as Kawhi. Some other guys around him. Another name that we can talk about right now, and Jimmy Butler is only $7,600. Jimmy Butler only being $7,600, but now you're not going to have Gary Harris. You're not going to have Will Barton. And if Jamal Murray is out, this is not the same Denver defense, a defense that has already been struggling a little bit this year. Now, Torrey Craig might get on the court more, so that's a little bit of an issue. But if it's Monty Morris, if it's Michael Porter Jr. getting on the court more, it's going to be very, very good in my opinion for Jimmy Butler. $7,600 is already a fair price point for him. I like Jimmy Butler. Tobias Harris at $7,100, cheapest we've seen him in a while. It'll be interesting to see what the 76ers do with their rotation. There's been rumors. I mean, before the break, Al Horford was coming off the bench at times. They seem to be pretty healthy now at this point, but they're obviously changing up the position, putting Ben Simmons to a power forward. He's going to be moving Tobias Harris to a 3. He's not going to be as close to the basket, which is just increasing or really hurting the role of Al Horford. So if Ben Simmons is going to be officially at the power forward position, you're not going to get as high of a rebounding rate for Harris. But the one thing that you can say is at least nice is he's not going to be sitting there right next to Joel Embiid, where Joel Embiid could be taking up a lot of those easy shots. Now, although the rebounding percentage when you're at the wing isn't great, although he's a fantastic rebounding 3 guard. Very similar to a guy in Aaron Gordon for the Magic when he plays at the 3 compared to the 4. Harris, so you're going to be getting a lot more shot opportunities, clean looks as well from 3. So $7,100, I think it's building in that decreased rebounding rate we can expect, but still you're having higher upside now in his shot selection. For some reason, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are still way too cheap. I like Donovan Mitchell more at $6,900. 1.4x multiplier in Superdraft is one of the best plays over there, but $7,000 against the OKC Thunder today. $7,000 Rudy Gobert is also a fine option. These two guys, yes, build around them yet again, just like we did on opening night, because for some reason they're cheaper than they were on opening night, both of them losing $100 in price. Mitchell at $6,900 is just an absolute, he goes for 40 plus fantasy points. He should have been 8K for that slate, and now he should be very similar in price for this slate, and he actually goes down in price. Makes no sense to me. He's obviously a fantastic play. Miles Turner's 1.55x multiplier, especially for a guy who has high block upside, and I'm expecting 30 plus minutes to 34 to 35 minutes with no Sabonis out there. If that's the case, Turner's fantasy points per minute are just on a completely different level when there's no Turner. You're going to expect like a 0.4 fantasy point per minute production bump. He's going to have more opportunities to just get on the court. He's going to have the offense go through him more, whether it's just pure scoring, opportunities on defense for blocks. So yes, Miles Turner at $6,200 should probably be $7,200 today. I like that. Fred VanVleet, not as high on Fred VanVleet, you can say. I think though that he should be seeing bigger minutes if he can get back up to where he was seeing 36 to 38 minutes a game, like his teammate next to him and Kyle Lowry, those guards for Toronto. $6,200 is a fair price point. You're going to get a pretty fair usage rate as well, and a lot of it comes from the assist percentage. Malcolm Brogdon, 1.55x multiplier. I love that on Superdraft as long as he plays. And if he plays, look, it doesn't seem like Oladipo is going to play. There's already no Jeremy Lamb out there. It doesn't seem like Sabonis is going to play. This is going to be Malcolm Brogdon from like the first week of the season when he was just dropping 50 fantasy points a night on everybody's head because Oladipo was obviously still out. Jeremy Lamb was still playing, but not playing as many minutes at that point. I think he was even coming off the bench at times. Malcolm Brogdon's assist percentage was like number 1 or number 2 in the league, up there with LeBron James, the Luka Doncic of the world. So Brogdon looks really good. Like guys that are just clearly underpriced for the slate right now. The two biggest ones so far that we're talking about, Donovan Mitchell and Malcolm Brogdon, that I've at least noticed. Miles Turner's in that conversation. Gobert's in that conversation. Heck, you could say Kawhi's in that conversation. But I would say Malcolm Brogdon and Donovan Mitchell are the glaring ones that stand out, and the Miles Turner being right there as well. Go get yourself some Malcolm Brogdon as long as he's not limited today, or obviously as long as he's not out. If I had to pick one guy from this OKC team that is my favorite pick, I guess it would be ownership dependent. Like if Dennis Schroeder's not going to pick up a lot of ownership, I'll go there. I assume Gallo at $5,600 is going to pick up ownership. Gallo's probably my favorite overall. Let's just call it cash play, and SGA will be my favorite GPP play as of right now. Conley's 1.65x multiplier in Superdraft. I do like that again. I like that a lot. He was another play that had like a 1.6 multiplier the other night on Superdraft when the season opened. $5,400 though is a very fair price point for somebody I expect to get 30 minutes of play here. I think that's a nice spot if you want to go for cash for Conley, building around that. This whole range right now of this $5,600 Gallo to where we're about to go down to like the 3K range on this slate is just all a bunch of value guys that are probably $1,000 underpriced. Paul Millsap at $4,900 would be the next man up in that situation. Look, I don't know if they're going to have to go out there, Denver, and really play big the entire time. Like Miami is obviously going to be having size with Bam, but for the extent of the time, I don't know how much they're actually going to have to keep out there Paul Millsap plus Nikola Jokic. But again, they're just going to be down bodies as well, but mainly in the backcourt. But Paul Millsap at $4,900, it's normally just a fair price point. Like he's probably a $5,400, $5,500 player. He's been in this $4,900 range a lot this season. And he normally, if he gets his, it depends. Is he going to get his 26 minutes, or is it going to be the Jeremy Grant game of getting 26 minutes and Millsap gets 20 to 22? If he can get his 24 to 25 minutes, Millsap or more, he's going to be paying off the stack more times than not. Josh Richardson is not going to be your greatest usage player, but he still sees over a 20% usage rate with the Philadelphia 76ers. You could probably expect 30 plus minutes of play out of him, and he's only $4,400. I don't know if I like it as much on Superdraft where it's a 1.7x multiplier. I do think he can get enough points to pop off for a 30 plus point performance. He's going to have to be hot from shooting and probably 3-point range. If so, we obviously know that he can do that. So I think he's in play on Superdraft, but I like the $4,400 price tag on DraftKings a little bit more there. And then we just start to hit closer to this 3K range. The last guy in the 4K range I'll touch on is Kuzma at $4,300. You saw big minutes out of Kuzma. If they're going to continue to give him those minutes, that's good to see. And I do not believe I was going back and looking at the game flow. I do not believe it was foul trouble induced. So $4,300 Kuzma is fine. He hit the 4K range. Jordan Clarkson just shot out of his mind. So don't play $3,900 Jordan Clarkson if he's absolute a chalk bunny on DraftKings. You can if you want, but I wouldn't. If you want to play him in cash, I think that's fine. But if he's going to be like wildly on a 5-game slate, like 50 plus or 40 or 30 plus percent owned, but if he's going to be, let's just call it one of the 3 or 4 highest owned players in the slate today, yeah, that's an issue. I probably wouldn't be going to him, mainly because he just shot out of his mind. And if you're going to be getting that, right, you're going to get crazy good shooting performances from him, but you're also going to get duds out of him, and that's when he's going to ruin your slate. Going down now just to finish out this range, other guys, like obviously Obviously, Jordan Clarkson played well. Kyle Kuzma played well. They didn't see any price bumps. They saw price reductions, some of them, if anything. JJ Redick played well. Again, another guy who just shot out of his mind to an extent. His was a little bit more modest, though. His was a little bit like you can see him repeating that if he gets the opportunities. There's going to have to be scoring to go around, with Zion probably only playing, again, 15 to 20 minutes, about half of his normal run. So Redick at 3,500. Caruso, I will call out, played a decent amount of minutes. Again, not foul trouble induced. $3,300 Caruso is going to be fine. Keep in mind, no Rajon Rondo, no Avery Bradley. It wasn't J.R. Smith going out of there and picking up a ton of minutes, although he probably picked up more than I thought, around the 15-minute mark. I had him down for like 10 to 12. But Caruso is going to be somebody that 2x multiplier in Superdraft is not a terrible idea. He just shot terribly, right? If Caruso goes out there and shoots half decent at 3,300, he probably pays it off for you for a close to a 20-plus point performance. So I think that Alex Caruso is also somebody that is fine to look at today. So that was about 20-plus early interest. I appreciate it. Let me know what you think about the video, just the quality with there being no green screen behind me. See if I'll be able to get one out tomorrow. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much. My name's Sal Vetri. Before you go, hit that like button for me, fellas. The big old subscribe button if you would. Thank you so much. And check out Superdraft. Promo code SAL gets you $10 free to play over there. Really like the multiplier formats. Players that stand out today, at least on this slate right now, guys like Paul George at a 1.35x multiplier, Mitchell at a 1.4, Miles Turner at a 1.55x. Guys that don't stand out as much, but it still looks good. Conley at 1.65. You have guys like Josh Richardson at 1.7. Those are some names. Obviously, you don't have to play the multiplier only guys. Like Kawhi at a 1x multiplier will be fine, but normally you're going to get the most upside out of those higher multiplier plays, in my opinion. And also, the projections will be out later today, or by probably the time that you're watching this, linked down below on Patreon, so you can check those out if you want to support me over there. Start of a new month, best time to sign up for Patreon, getting the content for both golf and NBA right now. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you in the next one.